This is the Dive Into Discovery podcast, where curiosity meets insight, and every conversation uncovers a new layer of understanding.
Welcome back, everybody. Today, we're going to be taking a deep dive into autonomous vehicles.
Self-driver cars.
Yeah, exactly. That's a good way to put it.
Yeah.
So we've got a ton of research and data points really exploring all the different facets of this, this huge shift in transportation.
Absolutely.
So we're going to be talking about the technology, obviously, where we're at today, and some of the, the challenges and roadblocks that are still ahead before this really becomes mainstream.
Yeah. But just to kick things off, one of the stats that really jumped out at me from the research was that 94% of accidents are caused by human error.
Oh, wow.
Which kind of makes you think, maybe we should be letting the robots take over.
It certainly highlights the potential safety benefits there, right? I mean, if we can eliminate that element of human error, that could be a huge game changer.
Absolutely.
And what's fascinating is, this isn't just science fiction anymore. We're already seeing companies like Tesla with their autopilot system, pushing the boundaries of what's possible.
And you've got Waymo's driverless taxis out there picking up passengers in select cities.
Yeah, I mean, it is really incredible to see how far this technology has come, just even in the last few years.
Yeah, absolutely.
But, rather than getting bogged down in the basics, like what LiDAR is or the different levels of autonomy, those are things that I think most of our listeners are probably familiar with.
Yeah.
Let's jump right into some of the more exciting, cutting-edge developments.
Yeah, I'm with you.
So, for example, Tesla's approach to autonomous driving has been really interesting.
Absolutely.
I mean, they've famously eschewed LiDAR, right, relying heavily on cameras and AI.
Right.
What do you think about that approach? I mean, is that a risky gamble or a stroke of genius?
Well, it's a fascinating debate. And Tesla's argument is that their camera-based system, combined with their advanced AI algorithms, is sufficient.
Yeah.
For full self-driving, they say that they can achieve it without LiDAR. But many others in the industry feel that LiDAR is essential, for creating a truly accurate 3D map of the car's surrounding, especially in challenging conditions.
Right.
So, it's kind of a high-stakes tech showdown. It'll be interesting to see which approach ultimately prevails.
Yeah, and speaking of high stakes, there's been a lot of buzz around Tesla's full self-driving feature.
Yeah.
But it seems like it's also facing, its fair share of criticism and safety concerns.
Yeah. Absolutely.
What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I think Tesla's aggressive rollout of their FSD feature has definitely been met with mixed reactions. While it does offer some pretty impressive capabilities, critics argue that the name full self-driving is misleading because the system still requires driver supervision.
Of course.
And it's not truly autonomous by, most definitions. So it's more like mostly self-driving, maybe. Yeah.
Well, beyond the hype, though, I'm curious about the broader societal implications of this technology. Yeah. I mean, it has the potential to reshape entire industries.
Absolutely.
What happens to all the truck drivers, taxi drivers, delivery drivers? I mean, are we headed towards a massive job displacement scenario?
It's a valid concern, and it's something that we need to be thinking about very seriously. Autonomous vehicles could automate millions of jobs currently held by human drivers. And while, some argue that new jobs will emerge in related fields, the transition won't be seamless.
Yeah.
So we need to be prepared to support those whose livelihoods are disrupted by this technological shift.
Absolutely. Retraining and, social safety nets are going to be crucial, I think, in navigating this transition.
Couldn't agree more.
But let's not forget about the potential benefits as well. Imagine a world with fewer accidents, less congestion, smoother traffic flow.
Sure.
And if these autonomous vehicles are electric, which, a lot of them are, we could be looking at a greener future too.
That's the optimistic vision. And to realize that vision, a robust 5G network is essential. Oh, interesting.
These high-speed networks are going to be the backbone of vehicle-to-vehicle communication, allowing cars to share data about their surroundings and make more informed decisions.
So it's not just about the car itself. It's about creating this whole connected ecosystem.
Right. It's a network of cars working together to create a safer and more efficient transportation system.
Wow. So how far away are we realistically from seeing this vision become a reality?
Well, we've made incredible progress.
Yeah.
But full-scale adoption of autonomous vehicles is still likely a few decades away.
Okay.
There are numerous technological hurdles, to overcome, improving the reliability of sensors in adverse weather conditions,
Yeah.
ensuring the security of vehicle systems against cyber attacks,
Mm-hmm.
developing robust ethical frameworks for autonomous decision-making.
Right.
So there's a lot of work to be done.
It's interesting that you mentioned ethical frameworks, because one thing that keeps popping up in discussions about autonomous vehicles is this idea of the trolley problem.
That philosophical thought experiment about a runaway trolley and having to make these impossible choices?
Yeah.
How are we supposed to program machines to make those kinds of life or death decisions?
Well, the trolley problem is a classic example of the ethical dilemmas we face when we're talking about handing over decision-making power to machines.
Right.
And there are no easy answers. We need to very carefully consider the values and principles that we want to embed in these systems.
Yeah. It's a reminder that even with all this incredible technology, the human element is still crucial.
Absolutely.
But speaking of humans, there's another big factor at play here. Public trust. I mean, are people even ready to hand over the wheel to a computer?
Public perception is a key hurdle. And understandably, many people are hesitant to trust their lives to a machine, especially given, the high-profile accidents involving autonomous vehicles that have made headlines. So building trust is going to require transparency from companies, rigorous safety testing, and clear communication about the capabilities and limitations of this technology.
That makes a lot of sense. And while we're on the topic of trust, what about data privacy? I mean, these cars are collecting a ton of information about our driving habits, our locations, our destinations. I mean, where does all that data go and who has access to it?
Yeah, data privacy is a valid concern. Autonomous vehicles generate vast amounts of data, raising questions about, how that information is collected, stored, and used. So we need robust regulations to ensure that our privacy is protected as this technology advances.
Absolutely. It's a whole new world of legal and ethical considerations.
Yeah.
But let's shift gears for a moment and talk about the global race to develop this technology.
Okay.
It seems like countries like the US, China, and Germany are all vying for a piece of the self-driving pie. What are the implications of this international competition, do you think?
Well, the race to develop autonomous vehicle technology is definitely heating up, with significant investments and research efforts happening globally.
Yeah.
This competition, it could lead to rapid innovation.
Right.
But it also raises concerns about standardization, intellectual property rights, and potential trade barriers.
So it's a complex landscape
Yeah.
with both opportunities and challenges.
Absolutely.
But for the average person listening to this, I think the big question is, when can I buy one of these self-driving cars?
Sure.
And how much is it going to cost me?
Well, right now, self-driving technology is still quite expensive,
Yeah.
making it inaccessible to most consumers. The sensor systems, the powerful computers, the complex software.
Yeah.
It all adds up to a hefty price tag.
So for now, it's a luxury feature, but let's imagine for a moment that the cost comes down
Okay.
and self-driving cars become widely available. How do you think that will change our cities?
Oh, wow. The potential impact on urban planning is massive. Think
Yeah.
about it. Less need for parking, potentially shorter commute times, dedicated lanes for autonomous vehicles.
Right.
Our cities could look radically different.
That's an exciting prospect. But before we get carried away with visions of futuristic cities, let's bring it back to the present.
Okay.
Companies like Uber and Lyft are already testing out self-driving taxis in certain areas.
Yeah.
What can you tell us about these real-world trials?
Well, these pilot programs are crucial, for gathering data, refining the technology, understanding how autonomous vehicles interact with real-world traffic conditions.
Right.
And we're seeing these trials pop up in cities with favorable regulations and infrastructure, like Phoenix, Arizona, for example.
So it's a step-by-step process. But while we're waiting for the widespread rollout of robo-taxis,
Yeah.
let's kick under the hood, so to speak.
Oh.
Can you give us a simplified explanation of what's going on inside the brain of a self-driving car?
Sure. At a fundamental level, a self-driving system consists of two main layers.
Okay.
The perception layer, which uses sensors to understand the environment, and the decision layer, which analyzes the data and determines the car's actions.
So it's a complex interplay of sensors, algorithms, and machine learning.
Exactly. It's a lot of data crunching.
That makes sense. And speaking of data, there's another interesting angle to explore here. Sensor fusion. How does combining data from different sensors like cameras, radar, and LiDAR improve the car's perception?
Well, sensor fusion is essential for creating a comprehensive and accurate picture of the car's surroundings. Each sensor type has its strengths and weaknesses.
Right.
By combining their data, the system can overcome the limitations of individual sensors
Right.
and create a more robust perception.
It's like giving the car superhuman senses.
Right, exactly. So, for example, cameras excel at recognizing objects, while radar is better at detecting motion and distance, even in poor visibility.
Interesting.
So by combining those two, you get a much more complete picture.
Yeah. But even with all this advanced technology, there's still the challenge of unpredictable human behavior.
Right.
I mean, how do you teach a machine to anticipate things like sudden lane changes, aggressive driving, or distracted pedestrians?
Yeah, that's where machine learning comes in by analyzing vast amounts of driving data. These systems can learn to anticipate and react to human behavior, even in unexpected situations.
So it's a constant process of learning and adaptation.
Exactly. It's like the cars are going to driving school,
Wow, that's a great analogy.
but on a much larger scale.
Right. And speaking of education, what about the human side of the equation?
Sure.
How do we prepare people for a world where they're sharing the road with self-driving cars?
Consumer education is crucial. People need to understand how these vehicles behave,
Yeah.
how to interact with them safely, and what to do in different traffic situations.
So it's about creating a shared understanding of the rules of the road in this new era of transportation.
Exactly.
Like we need a whole new driver's ed curriculum for the age of autonomous vehicles.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea.
But beyond educating drivers, how do we ensure the safety of pedestrians, especially in busy urban areas where self-driving cars will need to navigate, these really complex environments?
Pedestrian safety is paramount.
Yeah.
Autonomous vehicles need to be able to detect pedestrians, anticipate their movements, and make safe decisions to avoid collisions. And this requires sophisticated algorithms and sensor systems capable of handling the complexities of urban environments.
It's a daunting challenge,
Yeah.
but it's one that we absolutely have to get right.
Couldn't agree more. And, while we're focusing on the safety aspects, we can't forget the bigger picture. How do you see autonomous vehicles impacting the way we design and use our cities in the future?
Yeah, that's a great question.
The potential for urban transformation is enormous. Less need for parking.
Right.
We could reclaim valuable urban space for parks, housing community centers.
Yeah.
Traffic patterns could become more efficient, leading to reduced congestion, shorter commute times.
It's a fascinating glimpse into a future where technology really reshapes our urban landscapes.
Absolutely.
But before we get too far ahead of ourselves,
Yeah.
let's bring it back to the here and now.
Okay.
What are some of the key milestones or developments we should be watching for in the coming years?
Well, keep an eye on the progress of these real-world trials with robotaxis and autonomous delivery vehicles.
Right.
Watch for advancements in sensor technology and AI,
Yeah.
as well as developments in regulations and legal frameworks surrounding autonomous vehicles. And of course, pay attention to public perception and how it evolves as this technology becomes more prevalent.
It sounds like we're in for an exciting ride.
We are.
But before we wrap up this part of our deep dive, I want to touch on one more crucial aspect, the environmental impact.
Okay.
Many companies are pairing autonomous technology with electric vehicles.
Right.
How significant is this connection, and what does it mean for the future of sustainability?
Well, the convergence of autonomous driving and electric vehicles is a major step towards creating a more sustainable transportation system. By reducing reliance on fossil fuels, electric autonomous vehicles can help mitigate climate change and improve air quality, especially in urban areas.
So it's not just about convenience and efficiency, it's about creating a cleaner and healthier planet.
Absolutely.
But let's be realistic. There are still challenges to overcome.
Sure.
What are some of the key hurdles that need to be addressed before electric autonomous vehicles can become mainstream?
One of the main challenges is improving battery technology to extend the range and reduce the charging time of electric vehicles.
Okay.
We also need to expand the charging infrastructure to make it more convenient for people to charge their vehicles,
Yeah.
especially those without access to home charging.
So it seems like the infrastructure needs to catch up with the technology.
In some ways, yes.
But let's imagine for a moment that we've overcome these hurdles and electric autonomous vehicles are ubiquitous. How do you envision this impacting our daily lives?
I think it would be transformational.
Yeah.
Imagine a world where you summon an electric robotaxi that whisks you to work while you enjoy a cup of coffee and catch up on the news.
Yeah.
Your commute becomes productive time instead of wasted time.
Right.
And when you reach your destination, the car parks itself, eliminating the hassle of finding a parking spot.
It sounds like a dream come true for anyone who's ever circled the block for 20 minutes looking for parking.
Exactly.
But let's not forget about the people who rely on driving for their livelihoods.
Sure.
What happens to taxi drivers, truck drivers, and delivery drivers in a world of autonomous vehicles?
This is a significant societal issue.
Yeah.
And it's one that we need to address, while some argue that new jobs will be created in related fields like vehicle maintenance and software development.
Right.
The transition won't be easy for everyone.
Yeah.
So we need to provide retraining opportunities and support systems to help those who are displaced by this technological shift.
Absolutely. We need to make sure that everyone benefits from this technological progress, not just a select few.
I completely agree.
But speaking of benefits, let's not forget the potential impact on accessibility.
Okay.
How can autonomous vehicles improve mobility for people with disabilities, the elderly, or those who can't drive for other reasons?
Autonomous vehicles hold tremendous promise for enhancing accessibility.
Yeah.
People who are unable to drive themselves could gain newfound independence and freedom of movement. They could access employment opportunities, social events, essential services.
Right.
Without relying on others for transportation.
It's a powerful example of how technology can empower individuals and create a more inclusive society.
Absolutely.
But let's not shy away from the darker side of this conversation.
Sure.
There are concerns about the potential for misuse of this technology.
Mm-hmm.
What are some of the risks we need to be mindful of as autonomous vehicles become more prevalent?
Well, one concern is the potential for hacking and cyber attacks.
Yeah.
If someone were to gain unauthorized access to an autonomous vehicle,
Right.
they could potentially cause harm or disruption. Another risk is the use of autonomous vehicles for malicious purposes, such as surveillance or even attacks.
It's a sobering reminder that any technology can be used for good or for ill.
That's true.
We need to be vigilant about addressing these potential threats as we develop and deploy autonomous vehicles.
Absolutely.
But let's not dwell on the negative.
Okay.
What are some of the most exciting possibilities on the horizon?
Sure.
What advancements are you most looking forward to seeing in the coming years?
I'm particularly excited about the potential for autonomous vehicles to improve road safety. By removing human error from the equation,
Yeah.
we could potentially reduce accidents and save lives.
Right.
I'm also eager to see how this technology will evolve to handle increasingly complex driving scenarios, such as navigating heavy traffic, adverse weather conditions, and unexpected obstacles.
It's a future full of possibilities.
It is.
But before we let our imaginations run wild, let's take a step back and acknowledge the challenges that still lie ahead.
Okay.
What are some of the key hurdles that need to be overcome before autonomous vehicles can truly become a part of our everyday lives?
One of the biggest challenges is achieving widespread public acceptance. People need to feel safe and comfortable sharing the road with autonomous vehicles.
Right.
We also need to address the ethical and legal complexities surrounding autonomous driving, such as liability in the event of an accident and the development of clear regulations for their use.
It's a complex puzzle with many pieces.
Yeah.
But as we wrap up this part of our deep dive, I want to leave our listeners with a final thought-provoking question.
Okay.
If you could design the perfect self-driving car experience,
Sure.
what would it look like? What features would it have?
Okay.
How would it interact with you and the world around you?
Well, for me, the perfect self-driving car experience would prioritize safety, comfort, and efficiency. I envision a vehicle that seamlessly integrates with my digital life, allowing me to work, relax, or connect with others. While on the move, it would be environmentally friendly,
Okay.
using renewable energy sources, and it would be capable of navigating any road or traffic condition with ease.
That sounds like an incredible ride. We'll have to see if the engineers can deliver on that vision. But for now, we're going to take a short break. When we come back, we'll continue our deep dive into the world of autonomous vehicles, exploring some of the latest advancements, the most intriguing controversies, and the most exciting possibilities on the horizon. Stay tuned.
And we're back, diving deeper into the world of autonomous vehicles.
One thing that really struck me in our last segment was the idea of sensor fusion. You know how these cars are basically combining different senses to create a more complete understanding of their surroundings. It's almost like giving them superpowers. But let's face it, driving isn't always sunshine and rainbows. What about those tricky situations?
Yeah.
Think, heavy rain, blinding snow, thick fog.
Right.
How do these sensors hold up in those kind of adverse weather conditions?
That's a crucial question, and honestly, it's one of the biggest hurdles for autonomous vehicle technology right now.
I can imagine.
Adverse weather can really throw a wrench into the works. Rain can interfere with cameras, snow can obscure lane markings, fog can disrupt LiDAR signals.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, even we humans struggle to drive in those conditions sometimes.
Exactly.
So how are companies tackling this weather challenge? Is it just a matter of waiting for better sensors, or are there other approaches?
It's a multifaceted problem that demands innovation on multiple fronts.
Yeah.
So some companies are developing more robust sensors like thermal cameras that can see heat signatures even in low visibility.
Oh, wow.
Others are focusing on enhancing the software using AI to analyze data from multiple sensors and kind of compensate for the shortcomings of any single sensor in those conditions.
So it's like teaching the car to see the world through multiple lenses, even when one or two of those lenses are a bit blurry.
Exactly. That's a great way to put it.
But, let's be honest, even with perfect sensors and, super smart AI,
Yeah.
there's one element that will always be a wild card: human drivers.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, we're unpredictable, sometimes irrational,
Right.
and let's face it, not always the best at following the rules of the road.
Yeah, the human factor.
So how on earth do you program a machine to anticipate all of that human chaos?
Well, that's where it gets really interesting. We're essentially trying to teach machines to understand human behavior, which, as we all know, is incredibly complex.
No easy task.
So companies are using these vast data sets of real-world driving footage to train AI models that can recognize patterns in human behavior, anticipate potential risks, and react accordingly.
So it's a constant process of learning and adaptation.
Exactly. It's like giving the car a crash course in psychology.
Right. But while we're on the topic of human behavior, I have to ask about something that's been on my mind.
Sure.
Sometimes I see videos of people testing out full self-driving features and, let's just say, pushing the limits a little bit. It makes me wonder, are we as a society ready for the responsibility that comes with this level of autonomy?
Right.
I mean, are we mature enough as drivers to use this technology safely and responsibly?
It's a valid concern. There's definitely a learning curve both for the technology and for us, the users.
Yeah.
We need to move beyond the wow factor and really understand the capabilities and the limitations of these systems.
Absolutely.
Over-reliance on technology coupled with a lack of understanding of its limitations that could lead to dangerous situations.
So it's about finding that balance between embracing the potential of this technology and using it responsibly.
Exactly.
But let's shift gears a bit and talk about something that's been generating a lot of buzz in the tech world: 3D mapping. I understand it plays a crucial role in autonomous driving, but I have to admit I don't quite grasp the details. Can you break it down for us?
Absolutely. Think of 3D mapping as creating a highly detailed digital twin of the real world.
Okay.
And these maps go beyond what you see on your GPS app. They include precise information about road geometry, lane markings, traffic signals, even the location of trees and buildings.
Wow.
And this allows the car to accurately pinpoint its position and plan its route with incredible precision.
So it's like giving the car a cheat sheet for the entire road network.
Exactly.
But if these maps are so crucial, how are they created and maintained? I imagine it's a massive undertaking, especially with roads constantly changing and construction happening everywhere.
It's a monumental task involving a combination of cutting-edge technologies.
Yeah.
Companies are using specialized vehicles equipped with LiDAR cameras and other sensors to scan the environment and capture the data needed to create these intricate maps. And the work doesn't stop there. These maps need constant updates to reflect changes in road conditions, construction projects, and even seasonal variations.
So it's like a never-ending game of digital catch-up.
It is. It's a huge challenge.
But let's imagine for a moment that we've solved the mapping challenge, the weather challenge, the human behavior challenge.
Okay.
And we're living in a world where self-driving cars are the norm.
Yeah.
How do you think this will reshape our cities?
The potential for urban transformation is immense. Think about all the parking lots we could reclaim and repurpose for housing parks or green spaces.
Right.
Imagine smoother traffic flow, reduced congestion, and shorter commute times. It's a vision of a more efficient, sustainable, and livable urban environment.
It sounds like a city planner's dream come true.
It does.
But before we get carried away with utopian visions, let's talk about the flip side of this coin.
Okay.
The potential downsides.
Sure.
Some critics argue that autonomous vehicles could actually lead to more congestion, as people who previously wouldn't or couldn't drive now have access to personal transportation.
Right.
What are your thoughts on that?
It's a legitimate concern. If autonomous vehicles become incredibly cheap and convenient, we could see a surge in demand,
Right.
potentially leading to increased traffic volume, especially in densely populated areas.
Yeah, that makes sense.
It's crucial that we consider these potential unintended consequences
Absolutely.
and plan accordingly.
So it's about striking that delicate balance between embracing the benefits of this technology and mitigating the potential risks.
Exactly.
But let's shift gears for a moment and talk about something that's been generating a lot of debate: the legal and ethical implications of autonomous vehicles.
Sure.
I mean, if a self-driving car gets into an accident, who's liable?
Yeah.
The driver, the manufacturer, the software developer. It seems like a legal minefield.
You've hit on one of the most complex and contentious aspects of autonomous vehicle technology.
Yeah.
The legal framework surrounding accidents involving self-driving cars is still evolving. There are questions about liability insurance, data privacy, and even the definition of driver in the context of autonomous vehicles.
It sounds like lawyers are going to have a field day with this.
I think so.
But beyond the legal questions, there are also ethical considerations.
Absolutely.
How do we program machines to make life or death decisions in unavoidable accidents?
Yeah.
I mean, the trolley problem keeps coming back to haunt me.
The trolley problem is a classic thought experiment that highlights the ethical challenges of autonomous decision-making.
Right.
How do we program a machine to choose between two bad outcomes?
Right.
There are no easy answers, and this is a debate that will continue as autonomous vehicles become more sophisticated.
Yeah, it's a reminder that even with all our technological prowess, we still grapple with fundamental questions about morality and responsibility.
Absolutely.
But let's shift our focus for a moment and talk about something a little less heavy: the economics of autonomous vehicles.
Okay.
How is this technology likely to impact businesses, jobs, and the overall economy?
Well, the economic implications of autonomous vehicles are far-reaching. We could see significant disruption in industries like transportation logistics and even retail. Jobs related to driving, such as truck driving and taxi driving, could be automated, while new jobs could emerge in fields like software development, data analysis, and vehicle maintenance.
So it's a classic case of creative destruction.
Right.
Some jobs will be lost while others will be created.
Exactly.
But let's imagine for a moment that we're living in a world where autonomous vehicles are the dominant form of transportation.
Okay.
How do you think this will change our relationship with cars, with transportation, and even with our cities?
I think it has the potential to fundamentally alter our perception of mobility.
Mhm.
Instead of viewing cars as personal possessions,
Right.
we might shift towards a model of transportation as a service.
Interesting.
So we could summon autonomous vehicles on demand, paying for the ride rather than owning the car.
Okay.
This could lead to more efficient use of resources, reduced traffic congestion, and greater accessibility for people who can't afford to own a car.
It's a vision of a more equitable and sustainable transportation system.
Absolutely.
But as with any major technological shift,
Yeah,
there will be challenges along the way.
of course.
What are some of the key hurdles that need to be overcome before this vision can become a reality?
One major challenge is achieving a level of technological reliability that inspires public confidence. People need to trust that these vehicles are safe and capable of handling all sorts of road conditions and unexpected situations.
Right.
We also need to develop clear regulations and legal frameworks that address liability, data privacy, and the ethical implications of autonomous driving.
So it's a multifaceted challenge that involves technology policy and public perception.
It really is.
But let's zoom in on the tech side for a moment.
Okay.
What are some of the most exciting areas of innovation in autonomous vehicle technology? What breakthroughs are you most looking forward to seeing in the coming years?
I'm particularly interested in advancements in artificial intelligence and machine learning. These technologies are key to enabling autonomous vehicles to understand and navigate complex environments, anticipate human behavior, and make safe and efficient decisions.
Right.
I'm also eager to see how sensor technology evolves to improve perception accuracy, especially in challenging conditions like low visibility or adverse weather.
It's a rapidly evolving field with new breakthroughs happening all the time.
It is. It's very exciting.
But let's not forget about the human element. How do we as a society prepare for a future where autonomous vehicles are a part of our everyday lives? What are some of the key steps we need to take to ensure a smooth and safe transition?
I think we need to focus on educating the public about autonomous vehicles, their capabilities and their limitations.
Yeah.
We need to create clear regulations and guidelines for their use, and we need to address the ethical and societal implications of this technology. It's a collective effort that involves governments, industry leaders, and the public at large.
Absolutely. It sounds like a massive undertaking, but one that's essential if we want to harness the full potential of autonomous vehicles while minimizing the risks.
I agree.
But before we get too bogged down in the complexities, let's take a moment to appreciate the sheer ingenuity and innovation behind this technology.
Yeah.
I mean, it's pretty mind-blowing to think that we're on the cusp of a world where cars can drive themselves.
It's truly remarkable, and it speaks to human creativity and a relentless pursuit of progress. But as with any powerful technology, it's crucial that we use it wisely, responsibly, and for the benefit of all.
Well said. And on that note, we're going to take a short break. When we come back, we'll continue our deep dive into the world of autonomous vehicles, exploring some of the most intriguing controversies, the most exciting possibilities, and the most pressing questions that lie ahead. Stay tuned.
We're back and ready to wrap up our deep dive into the world of autonomous vehicles.
You know, it is amazing to think how far we've come in such a short time. I mean, from basic cruise control to cars that can practically drive themselves.
Oh, no, it's incredible.
The pace of innovation is just incredible. But in all this talk about sensors and algorithms and, all the tech behind it,
Yeah.
I think it's easy to lose sight of the human side of things. How do you think this technology will change our relationship with cars and with transportation in general?
Well, that's a fascinating question because you're right. Right now, for most people, a car is more than just a way to get from point A to point B. It's a symbol of freedom, independence, even status.
Yeah.
So what happens when cars become more like automated services? Will we still feel that same emotional connection?
It's almost like we're moving from a culture of car ownership to a culture of mobility on demand.
Right.
Kind of like what's happened with streaming services and music. We used to buy CDs, build collections, have our favorite artists.
I know I have so many CDs.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
And now we just subscribe to a service and we have access to everything. Could the same thing happen with transportation?
It's certainly a possibility, especially in urban areas where parking is a nightmare and traffic is a constant headache,
Right.
The appeal of summoning a self-driving car on demand is undeniable. We could see a shift away from personal car ownership, especially among younger generations who are already accustomed to the sharing economy.
It's a fascinating thought. Imagine a world where we no longer need garages or massive parking lots. I mean, think of all that space that could be repurposed for parks, housing, or even vertical farms.
It could radically transform our cities, absolutely.
Yeah, and for people who can't drive themselves, the elderly, those with disabilities,
Right.
this technology could be truly liberating.
Yeah.
Imagine the independence and freedom of movement that comes with being able to access transportation whenever and wherever you need it. It could be a game changer for so many people.
Absolutely. It has the potential to be incredibly empowering.
Yeah, it's a powerful reminder that technology at its best can be a force for good, empowering people, and creating a more inclusive society.
I agree.
But let's not shy away from the potential downsides.
Sure.
Some critics argue that this shift towards autonomous transportation could actually exacerbate existing inequalities. What happens to the people who can't afford access to these services? Do we end up creating a two-tiered transportation system, one for the haves and one for the have-nots?
That's a valid concern and one that we need to address head on. If we want autonomous transportation to be a force for good, we need to ensure that it's accessible to everyone, regardless of income level or location.
Right.
That means thinking about affordable pricing models, subsidies for low-income individuals, and equitable distribution of services across urban and rural areas.
So it's not just about developing the technology, it's about implementing it in a way that benefits everyone.
Exactly.
But let's zoom out for a moment and consider the global implications. We've talked about the US, China, and Germany leading the charge in autonomous vehicle development, but what about the rest of the world? How will this technology impact developing countries where transportation infrastructure and access can be vastly different?
That's a crucial question. In many developing countries, transportation infrastructure is limited and access to personal vehicles is low. Autonomous vehicles could potentially leapfrog traditional transportation models, providing affordable and efficient transportation options in areas where they're desperately needed.
It's almost like skipping a technological generation, like going straight from landlines to smartphones.
Right, exactly.
But there are also concerns about job displacement in developing countries where many people rely on driving for their livelihoods. How do we ensure that this technology doesn't worsen economic disparities?
It's a complex issue, and there's no easy solution. But one approach is to focus on developing local expertise in autonomous vehicle technology, creating new job opportunities in areas like software development, maintenance, and operations. It's about empowering local communities to benefit from this technological shift rather than being left behind.
So it's about creating a win-win scenario where technology improves lives while also creating economic opportunities.
Exactly.
But let's face it, there are always going to be people who are skeptical, even resistant to change. How do we address those concerns and build public trust in autonomous vehicles?
Transparency is key. Companies need to be upfront about the capabilities and limitations of this technology, and they need to demonstrate a commitment to safety through rigorous testing and data-driven decision-making. We also need to engage the public in open and honest conversations about the potential benefits and risks of autonomous vehicles.
It's about building a dialogue, not just dictating from on high, but even with the best intentions and the most robust technology, there are always going to be unforeseen challenges and ethical dilemmas that arise. What are some of the biggest questions that you think we'll be grappling with as this technology continues to evolve?
One of the biggest questions is how we define the role of the human driver in the age of autonomous vehicles. Will we always need a human behind the wheel, even in a supervisory capacity? Or will we eventually reach a point where machines are fully capable of making all the decisions?
It's a question that goes beyond technology and touches on our fundamental beliefs about autonomy, control, and responsibility.
Absolutely.
And while we're on the topic of responsibility, what about the legal and ethical implications of accidents involving autonomous vehicles?
Right.
How do we determine liability when a machine is making the decisions?
It's uncharted territory, and the legal framework is still catching up. We'll need to develop new laws and regulations that address the unique challenges posed by autonomous vehicles. And beyond the legal questions, there are also ethical considerations. How do we program machines to make difficult decisions in situations where human lives are at stake?
It's a reminder that even with all our technological advancements, we still face age-old dilemmas about morality, responsibility, and the value of human life. But let's not end on a somber note. Despite the challenges, there's a sense of excitement and possibility surrounding this technology.
There is.
What are you most hopeful about when you think about the future of autonomous vehicles?
Well, I'm hopeful that this technology will ultimately make our roads safer, our transportation systems more efficient, and our lives more convenient. I'm also excited to see how it will transform our cities, creating more livable and sustainable urban environments.
It's a vision of a future where technology enhances our lives and empowers us to create a better world. And on that note, we've reached the end of our deep dive into the fascinating, complex, and ever-evolving world of autonomous vehicles. We've explored the technology, the challenges, the ethical dilemmas, and the incredible potential of this transformative innovation. It's a journey that's just beginning, and the road ahead is sure to be full of twists and turns. But one thing is certain, the future of transportation is going to be very different from what we know today. And as we navigate this uncharted territory, it's crucial that we engage in open and honest conversations, ask tough questions, and ensure that this technology serves humanity in a positive and equitable way. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive, and we'll see you next time for another exploration of the cutting-edge ideas and innovations that are shaping our world and my world.
What did you think of this week's episode? We'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments. Don't forget to join us next time as we dive even deeper. And as always, stay curious, because you never know what discoveries are just around the corner.